Hey fish friends, how's it going? Zenzo with Tazawa Tanks. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about things that have happened in the fish hobby that were not so great. So the title of the video is The Worst Day in Fish Keeping. Ray from Ray's Aquaria had reached out to me. She's a friend and said, hey, do you mind if I nominate you for this kind of a YouTube challenge to talk about your worst day in fish keeping? And I agreed and said that I would. I had to give it some thought and think about what was kind of a bad situation and something that happened in the hobby that kind of gave me pause. And I think it's important to share a lot of this with the viewers for all of you to understand that you're not alone when you make a mistake in your home aquarium and you have a fish that dies, or if you cause a small flood or something, to know that it happens to the best of us. Not that I'm the best, but it happens to a lot of people, a lot of experienced fish keepers. We all make mistakes. We learn from them. And as long as you're learning and not making those mistakes again, then it is okay. So I have a few stories, and nothing was really the worst story or the worst day in fish keeping. So I've got kind of a few smaller stories. So I'm going to start with one that's a little bit embarrassing. And if my wife watches this video, she's probably going to lose her mind. And I do have family that watch this video too. So my nieces and stuff, cover your ears. But anyway, a long time ago, well, many years ago, when my wife and I were dating, I was kind of not really in the hobby. I was taking a break. It was kind of in the period of time when I went away from keeping big aquariums and African cichlids, and I was only keeping betta fish. So I had a couple betta bowls, nicely scaped with plants and stuff like that. And I remember in my bedroom, I had kind of an apartment down by the ballpark here in San Francisco. And in my bedroom, I had this kind of a large vase. It was, I forgot how big it was, but it was pretty big. It was a betta bowl, essentially. It was kind of a large glass vase that was maybe 1.5 gallons or 2 gallons. So, pretty good size. Not great for a betta, but the betta was healthy and fine. And it was planted. And my wife and I came home from going out and having some fun that evening and having dinner or something. And we were in my room, and we were being close to one another, I should say, and I had this betta bowl on this little stand that I had that was kind of in my room, but near the closet and kind of near the master bathroom. Anyway, to give you the Reader's Digest version, the bowl got knocked over and it broke, and it was this huge crash, glass everywhere, substrate everywhere. The fish was flopping on the ground, so I obviously had to stop what we were doing and rescue the fish and find another container to put my fish in and clean everything up. It was a mess. I mean, 2 gallons of water doesn't seem like that much until you drop it on carpet in your bedroom. It is quite a bit, in addition to broken glass and everything, right? So anyway, long story short, that was quite the experience. Many years later, my wife and I still laugh about what happened. The betta was fine. He ended up living for another couple of years, and so it was okay. But that was a pretty bad situation. More recently, you might have seen the video where I talked about I made a really bad mistake when I was doing a bunch of water changes down here in the fish room, and had one of my tanks that I had failed to put dechlorinator in. And I had all the fish in that tank die. It was a bunch of Mbuna juveniles that were growing out. So they died because of my mistake. So that was a pretty bad one. That was actually probably the worst I felt, because I did something in haste and wasn't paying attention, and the fish died because of my mistake. So that was unfortunate and definitely not a good day. And then another occurrence is when I was filling my Tanganyika tank upstairs. So right now I'm down in the basement, and right above me is the kitchen, and then over that direction is the living room, and we've got big display tanks, African cichlid tanks upstairs if you've seen them. Well, anyway, I was doing some water changes, and I forgot what I was doing. I was multitasking, as I always do, because I'm trying to do so many things, and overfilled the Tanganyika tank. I heard this water. I'm like, what is that? And I was using a Python to refill. Needless to say, there was water gushing out of the aquarium over the top onto the floor. It actually came down into the basement, and there was water all over the floor here in the basement. So that was a mess, and Fortunately, that happened when my wife wasn't home, so I was able to clean everything up and kind of get things going as far as drying. I put a bunch of towels down, soaked up a lot of water, and then ran some fans. She knew that I had, spilled some water, but she didn't know how much. So that was a pretty bad one too. And then most recently, I had a fish loss. I had one of my favorite male peacocks that died. Actually, I've had him for a few years now, and he died. He seemed healthy, but I think it was aggression, and he just couldn't deal with the tank boss and just was dead one morning. So that happens if you keep African cichlids, as you know. It doesn't happen to me very often, but it does happen from time to time. So that was difficult to stomach, and definitely not one of my better days when stuff like that happens. So anyway, I hope that you got a little bit of enjoyment from my funny story, and also learned a lesson from my mistakes as far as being careful with dechlorinating your tank and filling your tanks and things like that. I've done other floods and other mistakes. In fact, I flooded a tank down here recently, but this is all concrete floor, and I just can soak it up and sweep it up. It's not that big of a deal because we're down here and the garage is right next door. So as long as it's not too much water, I can deal with it. The other day, I dropped a full container of food, and I have thousands of cichlid pellets all over the place that I had to clean up, and there's still a whole bunch that they're under the tanks and under the stands, and I'm not going to deal with it right now. But stuff like that happens all of the time. It's just part of the hobby, especially when you keep so many tanks. Things will happen. So I would say slow down, take your time, and try to lessen your mistakes. I am going to nominate some people for this video, but before I do, I need to confirm with them that they are cool with it. So I have reached out to a few YouTubers. Hopefully they accept. A couple of them are some younger YouTubers that I am encouraging to do more videos. So I will put their information down below, probably in the comments or in the link down below. So you can check down there and see what they came up with as far as their worst day. So thanks again for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.